LeBlanc like picks every game right now. It's
actually, LeBlanc is one champion I might recommend banning.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for that really is once people figure out, oh, you max W and you get wave clear. Wave clear. What? Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Like once, I mean, wave clear is important. I'm not saying it's the only thing that matters. Like, probably I overemphasize wave clear a little bit, but the point is, like, if you can't clear minion waves, you know, someone on your team has to be able to. And if you're in the mid lane and you get shoved in, you can't roam. So, I mean, what people figured out is you can max W on LeBlanc. It doesn't hurt your burst that much. It makes it, you're all in at level 6 a little weaker, but she gets so much versatility. She can assassinate people. She can poke with her abilities. She can, she has kind of the same thing as Kassadin, where she lands a silence and you can't respond to her, and then she just goes back to her distortion. She's so mobile and hard to catch. Like, there's so much versatility in LeBlanc's kit that she works like with any kind of team composition.
Yeah, definitely, and that's I think that's kind of why she's become so popular, is because when you max W, you get that wave clear. I don't think it's necessarily like why she's strong, but before with LeBlanc, the thing with LeBlanc was that it was really, really hard to farm because you had no sort of wave clear at all, and your late game was really bad just because you kind of lacked a team fight.
Yeah.
The team fight kind of, I think, got kind of overlooked now just because you have such an amazing ability to just blow someone up really fast, and the wave clear problem got fixed now because you just max W and you can actually wave clear pretty well. So.
Apparently Faker still goes DFG. I don't know if that's in solo queue or if it's in his competitive games, but I'm just reading the chat.
Yeah, I could believe that. I honestly, I don't see Athene's being strong on the wall.
Yeah, you know what? It has been being built in Korea, but I feel like the LeBlancs that are building it aren't as strong, and maybe they're not as good at LeBlanc as some of the others. I feel like it's still not weak. I feel like LeBlanc is a strong pick, and they're building Athenes for a reason, because they want to play more of a mage role as opposed to an assassin role, and that makes sense for the Korean metagame, but I feel like the Korean metagame is really unique, and maybe it wouldn't work in other regions. So
Athenes is just a strong item in general, but in my opinion, like I said, I don't think it really fits with the current role, at least in like the North American meta.
Well, especially with the really hyper tanks top. Like, one of the reasons LeBlanc is so good is she gets like DFG and eventually a Liandry's, and then she kills like Shyvana in 2 hits.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're disagreeing a little bit about the mid lane, but definitely assassins are always strong in the mid lane, because that's like one of the most influential roles. You can roam to different lanes. So was there anything else in the chat that we wanted to go over, or can we move on to the next topic? I think that was it. I think we covered just about everything. So okay, our next topic was gonna be carry junglers, this is actually the result of kind of an earlier patch. I think it was 4.1 with the changes, which gave... Oh, right, there was the one question that somebody messaged to me. Thoughts on Tryndamere in solo queue?
Tryndamere.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think he's alright. I don't particularly find him super strong, but he's alright. I think he's pretty balanced.
Yeah.
When you get fed with Tryndamere, he can be a huge problem because nobody can stop his split pushing, and then you're either forced to fight like 3v4 or just do nothing like the entire game.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't get really fed, then he's just kind of meh. He doesn't have a good team fight, so you got to pretty much just split push with him as much as possible.
Yeah, I feel like he and Yasuo are kind of similar, but the difference is Yasuo has much better team fight. So he's a little more flexible, whereas Tryndamere, the only way he can win a game is through split push. But actually interesting, I was looking at the win rates, and Tryndamere is above 50%, whereas Yasuo is not. But I feel like that has more to do with skill cap. But, I mean, they both fill this really similar role of kind of a split pushing hard carry. We've seen Tryndamere in the LCS, and we've seen him in solo queue. It's just, like, if you're a good Tryndamere, you go ahead and pick him.
Yeah, it's like, with Tryndamere, if you can 1v1 anyone on the other team, you're going to be useful. If you can't, you're not going to be useful at all. So that's kind of the risk you take when you play Tryndamere.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, that was all the questions. So our next thing is the carry junglers, which is we're seeing a lot more of like Pantheon and Wukong, and who else are we seeing in the jungle that we weren't seeing before?
Kha'Zix.
Kha'Zix. Well, Kha'Zix we were seeing before the changes, at least a little bit. But definitely those types of junglers are showing up a lot more. And it's a result of a change, I think it was in 4.1, where the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith and the Spirit of the Elder Lizard gained the same passives that the Spirit of the Ancient Golem had, which was the kind of sustain where when you kill minions you get health and mana back. And then I think they also got the conservation passive for the gold generation. So they're kind of more on an equal level now with the Spirit of the Ancient Golem that was so dominant before, and we're still seeing a lot of Ancient Golem, but on like Pantheon and Wukong especially, and Kha'Zix, you just build the Spirit of the Elder Lizard, and suddenly you can like carry from the jungle, and you know, since you still have like the hyper tank top, and like you can make your kind of mid game fill in tank like Leona or Thresh in the bottom lane, so that you don't have this weak mid game point where your top laner isn't able to join the team and isn't really at their tanky point yet. So you're not losing too much by picking a carry jungler, and they're just so powerful because of what they provide in their kits. And the extra damage they get from Spirit of the Elder Lizard. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you like it? Do you feel like it's frustrating to play against now that junglers are doing a lot more damage?
I think it's pretty frustrating to play against, but it makes sense. I mean, all of a sudden you pretty much opened the door and said, hey, pretty much any champion right now can jungle effectively, and so of course, like, who are you going to pick? You're going to pick the ones with the best ganks, because that's how you win games. Is you have really strong ganks, you get all your lanes, you know, to snowball, and like you just win the game. Yeah. And you're not going to do that with a super tanky jungler with like 4,000 HP that does no damage. You know, the best gankers are going to be the ones that can kill. The best gankers are going to be the ones that can output the most damage in the shortest amount of time, and that's like Wukong, Kha'Zix, Fiddlesticks, and I'm missing one. But just like those assassins, you know?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really surprise me that you see those assassins in the jungle, and I think they're going to probably be sticking around for a while.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen more Aatrox, and that we haven't seen more Zed, because there was a time when there were a couple players playing like Zed jungle, and that was really good. And of course, Aatrox was popular for a while. They're just not so much right now. Maybe it just comes down to nobody's picked it up yet, but I think that those are strong. I actually think Wukong is a lot weaker than people give him credit for, because he doesn't do much until level 6, and it's really easy to take advantage of that.
I'm going to disagree with you there again.
Okay.
Which is all right, because, I mean, we can just see how it plays out, and we
are
entitled to our opinions. But I think Wukong, actually, for me, is the most frustrating jungle to play against right now, just because he's got the invisibility going for him, which is still really strong in Season 4.
Yeah.
And on top of that, his ultimate can carry team fights like by itself. If you get fed as Wukong, which a lot of the times these junglers are, just because you output so much damage in your ganks that a lot of times you just end up getting the kills. If you get fed with Wukong, your ultimate can win fights like by itself, hands down, like no problem. And so I think that's why he's really strong. I think the reason why we don't see Zed jungle and who's the other one you mentioned?
Aatrox.
Oh, Aatrox. It is because they both lack a bit of crowd control.
Right.
Zed has like one slow, and Aatrox has like a knock-up and a slow, which, I mean, I don't know, the knock-up's not really reliable, and the slow is not really that good. And so, unlike Wukong and Fiddlesticks and Pantheon, they don't have like those hard CC to go along with the ganks. So I think that kind of hurts their gank potential a little bit, which is why you don't see them as much as the current junglers.
Yeah, I mean, actually in solo queue they're probably pretty strong. Aatrox though, his ganks are pretty good.
I don't know. I never fear an Aatrox jungle.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely you have some pretty good perspective on that since you're at the challenger level. But, I mean, actually, I wanted to bring up an example just to illustrate my point. And I actually feel the same way about Fiddlesticks as far as his early game is pretty weak. He does have his fear, but, like, without, like, a flash, it's kind of hard to get in there and get the fear down. And, of course, the duration got nerfed recently. But there was one game that Cloud9 played against a Wukong really masterfully. And there was actually a specific team fight that I want to point out where, you know, it is possible to play around this Wukong and the Fiddlesticks. You just put a lot of pressure on the lanes early on, and then in team fights you make sure you stay spread out, like especially since high mobility picks are really popular right now, like LeBlanc and Ezreal and a lot of those champions. And then, you know, of course you've got like a tank in the top lane and a tank as your support. They don't care if they get hit by Wukong as much. But like in that kind of a team composition, they can just completely avoid Wukong and Fiddlesticks. And you know, you kind of do have to counter pick it, and you have to play against it pretty well, but I feel like it is pretty easy to play around. So let's see if I can find that clip, and let's not double my voice because that would be awkward. But there was one team fight where you know, Cloud9 was in a pretty commanding position, but what happened was they just completely avoided Wukong's ultimate. Like, I think he only hit one person. And it's not like it was a bad ultimate. They just did a really amazing job of kiting him. And I'm looking for it right now. I don't remember where I had it. Oh, yeah, it was against Curse. Okay, it was, I believe, this fight. So, coming up. Sorry, guys. Okay, so they start off the fight by making this catch on Zekint. And then I did a lot of pausing in this game because I was doing like an analysis, but okay, let's back up to the start of that fight. So they start off the fight with that pick, but I mean, look, I Will Dominate is in a pretty good position here. I'm working on it. We're getting there. So like we see, they do have the LeBlanc pick here, and actually Sneaky, his kiting on Draven is really good. So stop pausing me. I wish I would stop pausing. Maybe it was the replay they showed the Wukong ult. Yeah, okay, here we go. And obviously, you know, it's pretty situational, but I feel like this is a repeatable result where you can just spread out and kite the Wukong. So like already we see Balls is moving up, Sneaky's moving to the left, Meteos is moving down because they realize Dominate wants to get in for this ultimate. He gets in there, the ultimate lands on nobody. Keep in mind that he got like a perfect gap close onto all three of them. He was right in the middle, and they just spread out immediately and completely avoided it. Sneaky never gets hit by it. Meteos is the only one who gets knocked up by that ultimate. So I mean, that's kind of my point as far as at least the Wukong is, that you can play around it. Sorry, that was kind of long-winded.
Oh no, yeah, that's cool. I think they just kind of screwed that up, but
they did for sure. But I just feel like those kinds of picks, although they are strong, like things that are easy to play around, are not as good. And I don't know. I really like the junglers that have really strong early games, like Elise and Kha'Zix and who else? Vi, whose ganks like pre-6 are really good.
Oh, Vi doesn't have that. Well, I don't think she has that good of ganks pre-6.
If she lands a Q, I mean, yeah, I guess that's pretty easy to play around though.
But so. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it definitely just comes down to how the team fights put out too, and you know, you gotta kind of play the team fight out to the kind of champions you have. Like, I mean, if you have a Wukong, you probably want to try to get a cluttered team fight. If you're playing against Wukong, you probably want to get a less cluttered team fight. So I guess it all just also comes down to just how the team fight actually plays out.
I think in solo queue, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that they can really turn the game. But in competitive play, where we see a lot of the higher mobility picks, at least, you know, it's really easy to force a spread out fight. Like actually in that analysis that I was looking at, I